How long was Nagini waiting there? Nagini
Nagini
was in the
wanted.
cut in the old woman for what, a month, 2 months? These are real questions.
Goodbye, Benny.
Welcome back to the Millennial Classics. My name is Q.
And my name is Barry.
And on this show, we talk about the best and most memorable movies, books, and culture-changing events from our generation. Maburi, how you doing today?
Doing great, doing great. All right, so at this point in the game, you kind of know where we're going with this. It's Deathly Hallows Part 1. The only
Let the end
way
game
I
begin.
yeah, and that's a great way to put it because the only way I can describe this movie is for the younger people is it's Infinity War for Harry Potter.
Yes.
This movie gives heavy Part 1 vibes.
Hardcore.
Which is probably why, I mean, we can just talk about it right now. Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes, 77%. Directed by the same director, David Yates. Infinity War ended on a better cliffhanger.
Oh, 100%.
Like half the characters died. I mean, that's a great ending.
I have to see what's next. This
right.
one, Dobby.
This movie,
you know.
Dobby dies, and then Voldemort gets the Elder Wand. It's just kind of like you leave this movie there and you're like, oh, shit, I gotta wait a year. I mean, Marvel, you know Thanos is gonna die at the end, but still, you want to see how it happens.
If you tried to put all of Deathly Hallows, the book, in one movie, I think we would still be complaining the same way we were complaining about Order of the Phoenix. There's just too much happening for it to be one movie.
The original cut was 5.5 hours. The original screenplay for one movie was 5.5 hours. They had to split it into two. A lot of stuff was cut out. You know, Dursley completely cut out. Victor Crumb made an appearance at the wedding, completely cut. They made these movies back to back, so that's something we've heard from like Lord of the Rings. You know, the Voldemort kind of spends the entire movie getting stronger and stronger, but there are some key parts of this movie that I really like a lot, and I think if it were done better, it would be real building blocks. I can just say I'll talk about it later, but that the Hallows are, I think, the best part of this movie. The animation, I never get that out of my head.
It's so beautiful.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. The narration's amazing. And
Emma Watson at her best.
There's something there with the Hallows and the Horcruxes. And I hate exposition, you know, like when Mission Impossible, they do the exposition dump and there's like something on the screen. But I really think that Harry Potter would benefit from a little of that because just having a counter of just the Horcruxes and someone just sitting down, you know, maybe even if like after they escaped the first time and they were just in the tent and they just sat down and were like, all right, Horcrux 1, Horcrux 2, Horcrux 3, we got those. Horcrux 4 and 5, this is where they're at. We don't know where it's 6 and like, you know, something like that. There's a point in time in these movies, like towards 7, where you're juggling up Horcruxes,
and then they just throw the Deathly Hallows all at
Hallows in there, and you're just juggling them all up in the air. I took so long to figure out the Sorcerer's Stone has nothing to do with any of these.
Yeah,
like that's just an additional thing.
Exactly. The Sorcerer's Stone sounds like the thing that revives people from life, but you're so right because you have to remember in your head the book from the second movie was a Horcrux, right? Like, and they build it for each movie. They build it. And then all 3 Hallows get mentioned in this movie, but you're supposed to put the pieces together. Some exposition would have been nice. All of this time in the book, when they're in the tent, when they're on their own, that's when they're doing all of the talking about, okay, so this Horcrux and that Horcrux, and like you get that explanation and you get the pieces put together.
Right.
It's very difficult to show that version in a movie instead of just telling like an exposition, but you're right. Before we get into the scenes, let's get into the Millennial Time Machine. This movie was released November 19, 2010. In music in 2010, the top hits were Katy Perry again with California Girls and Teenage Dream, Eminem's Love the Way You Lie, and Lady Gaga's Bad Romance. Those were the songs and the artists that were topping the charts. The iPhone 4, ladies and gentlemen, we're right now on what, 15, 16? The iPhone 4 came out in 2010. And books and literature, outside of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the other popular books were, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Stieg Larsson's.
Stieg Larsson's. Oh, the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yeah, exactly. The girl with the dragon tattoos. And then Susan Collins, The Hunger Games. Those were the other books that were blowing up. Top 10 grossing movies of 2010. Maburi, do you have any guesses whatsoever?
Iron Man 2 definitely came out that year.
Number 7 on the list. Very good.
Was it Tangled?
Very good. Very good. Tangled, number 8 at 529 millions.
Was there a Toy Story 3?
That's the number 1 movie of the year, 1.07 billion.
That movie was crazy. Batman didn't happen. Man of Steel?
No Man of Steel.
Shit. All right.
This is a Christopher Nolan. It's huge.
Oh, Inception?
Yes. Number 4, Inception, 836 million. Every time I think of Inception, because it's Christopher Nolan, I don't expect it to be that much money. But I always get him confused. But that's huge. That's big box office. $836 million.
Yep.
That's humongous. The rest of the list, number 1, like you said, Toy Story. Number 2, I didn't know it made this much money. Alice in Wonderland. Yeah. I don't remember this movie being that big.
It made dumb money.
Harry Potter was number 3. Inception, number 4. Shrek Forever After. Shrek doesn't ever fail. It's crazy to me.
They're trying to bring it back too.
Yeah. Number 6 was Twilight. Iron Man, number 7. Tangled, number 8. 9 was Despicable Me, the very first. And to be honest, I think that was the lowest grossing at 543 million. Number 10 at How to Train Your Dragon. The big Oscars of that year.
Wait. The Oscars that year?
Well, the Oscars of the movies from that year. So, you know
so
what I mean.
2011.
The King's Speech won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor. Inception won Best Cinematography, Best Sound. The Social Network, Best Original Score.
Social Network, Millennial Classic.
Oh, 100%.
What a great movie.
Certified. That's, ladies and gentlemen, the Millennial Time Machine. Mumburi, take us down the best scenes of this movie. Let's get into the meat.
Yeah. Voldemort needs a new stick. Great seeing Voldemort in his element. Honestly, love to see him smile, relax a bit. You get to see kind of his leadership style, terrify all your minions.
Exactly. I mean, scare him to death.
One hears many things, my lord. Whether the truth is among them is not clear.
Spoken like a true politician.
Pius, new character, joined us. One of the few. Him and Mundungus, pretty much the 2 new characters, you would say. And I guess Luna Lovegood's dad. It's like a weird little meeting because who has meetings like that in this day and age? Do it over Zoom. Am I right?
Stop it. Stop it. This is 2010. I think it was just Skype back then. If you guys have been watching us, I feel as though we have been propping up the Malfoys. The Malfoys look pretty pathetic in this movie.
Still clinging on to power, but in like a sad way.
Very sad.
And
I want more for Lucius. The fact that Voldemort took his wand should give you some respect for him. Not like you're pathetic. It's like, whose wand could I use? And it's like the most powerful, bad, evil wizard.
I look at it the other way.
Oh, you think it is pretty pathetic?
I think it's like, who's the shooter I can take his gun off him? And it's not going to affect the group too much, you know? Let me just say this. He wasn't going to take Bella's wand, you know?
No.
You need Bella strapped
She's
up.
The Rock, exactly.
You need Bella strapped up.
But there's just a lot of nobodies on that table.
Let me tell you something. By the time you've changed your wand to fit and match your cane, you're not a shooter no more. You're not a shooter no more.
I literally wrote down he bedazzled his wand. It's pathetic. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
He breaks this shit up.
If you in Al Capone squad and you add little bedazzle to your gat, Al's going to take that shit off. Let me just tell you right now, he's going to break that shit up. This is the scene where he's like, no, it has to be me that takes care of Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, he says it throughout, but yeah, this is the scene where he really mentions it.
This just shows the biggest weakness. Throughout the whole series, we know Harry Potter can be reached.
Yes.
He can be gotten.
Yes, he can. Very much so.
But the issue being that because everyone is afraid of this dude and he insists that it has to be him, he's literally the only one on the planet that can't kill Harry Potter.
From his perspective, for him to become the greatest wizard in history, he has to do it. Because Harry thinks the same thing. Harry thinks, I'm the one that has to kill Voldemort. Voldemort thinks I'm the one that has to kill Harry. So I understand why he feels that way, but you're right. He's literally the only one who can't. But that's because we know that he doesn't know that. From his perspective, it's fair. But last thing about that scene before we move on, the snake slithering up and opening mouth to kill the teacher, great shot.
I mean, Snape's character is so interesting, and he's the one character, if this was a TV show, that would be one of the things you focus on because he's undercover, triple undercover. You don't know whose side he's on. By far the most interesting character in the whole series. Probably.
100%. Yeah.
And inner conflict, being able to just stay cool under pressure. I mean, one of his colleagues is being tortured in front of everyone, and he has to
That's
keep cool, calm, collected. Yeah,
there's the most complexity with him. Everyone else is very kind of know exactly
one dimensional. The Polyjuice plot to keep Harry secure.
Yeah.
One of the biggest weaknesses of this movie, there's 4 spells and 2 potions. Whole movie. I mean, me and you got excited last movie, you know, when they started saying Sectum Sempra and we started hearing some new spells. But to be honest, if it's not Stupefy or Expelliarmus, I mean, nothing's getting blasted. And the potions, it's pretty much just Polyjuice. And it's just, it would be fine if they used it once in this movie, but it's a key plot point twice.
I know, and it does seem silly. I know, like, you know, they had that Felix Felicis. They also had the what's it called, the Truth Serum. But you're right. They come to this Polyjuice potion multiple times, and it's not just they come to it. It is like the thing that's going to stump them. And the thing is, I want to give the movies credit because even in the books, it's the exact same thing. It's not like the movies did something differently. This, if you do have a problem with this, we got to go all the way up to Miss J.K. Rowling herself, because you're right. You're talking about a wizarding world with a potions class. How are you doing this potions class and you only learn 3 different potions?
The first time they did Polyjuice, they made such a big deal out of it, how hard it is to make.
It was the entire movie. Yeah.
Right. How hard it is to make, to infiltrate the Slytherin common room, all this stuff. It's a pain. It took Hermione like half the year to make.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's just in flasks.
Yeah, just everyone
that shit. Dude, if I'm a Death Eater, you gotta have Polyjuice like top of the list. How are we stopping this? I mean, there has to be some defenses. They do a good job of being like, you can't operate here. There's defenses. You can't do this. You can't do that because there's defenses or key. Like, but a Polyjuice is apparently like end all be all.
Yeah. You can't. There's nothing that could help you get through the Polyjuice.
And then Harry again passing out. It's not cool. You're endangering Hagrid at that point. Do whatever you need to do, but eyes open, head in a swivel, dog. And let me just say, Hedwig didn't deserve to die on that one.
No, he didn't. Hagrid's motorcycle is a ride at Universal. What did you think about like the actual action of that scene?
The whole palette of this movie is so dark and so gray, even darker and grayer than the last ones. And there's really no action set pieces. And then the ones that we see are very brief. Like, you know, they're in the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. 20 seconds maybe. This movie doesn't really have a lot of action scenes.
No, yeah.
And essentially it's the beginning scene, which, it's the beginning scene.
Exactly. My whole thing is, it's like, I literally wrote in my notes, I'm kind of disappointed by that scene. Think about when I watched it for the first time, I was like, I probably was much more impressed. I don't know if I'm just spoiled now as just someone rewatching the movie, or if it actually kind of stinks, but I'm just not a fan.
When they get attacked at the wedding, it's one of those things where you knew that was a possibility. Everyone at the wedding.
Yeah.
What are the defenses there, Sky? And let's move
Run away! That's literally what they.
Let's move right on to that. The Weasleys at any point can just put up a tent that looks sick, and it looks way more comfortable than their actual house. They've now downgraded from the Burrow to wherever the shithole they live in now, but they all have wands, and they just choose to live like that at this point. So I'm thinking they're leaning into the poor life. That's what I'm thinking, because I don't get it. Essentially, in the Wizarding world, you can have like your dishes done for you. Manual labor is gone, and you can build whatever you want, essentially.
So then why is it that you choose to live in the cruddiest, crappiest?
Jesus Christ.
It's sad. It's not a good look.
Leaning into it.
For the Weasley's defense, the only other wizarding homes that we see are obviously the Malfoys, which is a fucking mansion. The only other house we see is Luna's dad, and that
Godric's Hollow too.
Oh shit, yeah, you're right. Those are normal looking houses. Yeah, no, it's on the Weasley.
This is also a key part. When the Minister of Magic shows up, I almost would love if they could take the Minister of Magic scene and the Deathly Hallows scene with Luna's dad. Those 2 scenes should be the core of this movie, because I feel like they set up everything. Yeah. Like everything you need to know for the rest of the movie is essentially happens in those couple scenes.
Yeah.
What shit does Dumbledore give you to fight Voldemort? And this is a story about what Voldemort wants. Between that and then all you have left is the Horcruxes. That's essentially all we need going into the 7th movie. There's so much filler.
In defense of the movie, a lot of the stuff is in the book.
I know.
So it's hard. I agree with you in the sense of making this a seamless, sensical movie that puts everything together. Yes, I agree with you. But all of the stuff that seem like filler is in the book specifically.
I get it.
And yeah, and I feel like if it didn't have it in there, I would be a bit upset.
Yeah, I completely get it. I'm just telling you the parts that, like, visually in terms of a movie that worked the best for me was when the minister literally shows up, threatens him, and says, like, you can't defeat him yourself.
Exactly.
Like, he's too strong. That part really worked for me. And then the Hallows part really worked for me. When you're reading it in the story, it's completely different.
Yeah.
But when you have to watch this, them hanging out in tents for half the movie, yelling at each other and arguing, it's honestly like Lord of the Rings. Love that movie. At this point in time, I'd skip Frodo part.
Bruh.
Jesus Christ.
All right. So then the wedding gets attacked, and then they make their way to Grimmauld Place. They meet Kreacher. The bad guys have no idea that the Order's main hideout is maybe someplace that Harry would want to go.
But they do know. Snape is like the head of the... Yeah, I mean, they 100% know the reason that they don't come to get them there. Only God knows, yeah.
Mundungus shows up, right? Kreacher goes to get him. I mean, house elves, a great plot device in this movie because they do everything that needs to be done. They have been next to useless this entire series, but all of a sudden now, you better have yourself a house elf or you're not getting anything done. When Mundungus is like, I gave it to some crazy woman, oh shit, that's actually her right there. You know, like, that's something that you can read. It's never going to be as good as watching that.
Yeah.
The only thing I have to say about that is he doesn't know who Umbridge is. Come on.
You have to know who Umbridge is.
She's the undersecretary.
Yeah.
She's been the undersecretary before. She's the new undersecretary. She's probably the second most powerful wizard, like, politically, in the country.
There's no way he doesn't know. So that scene, I think all of it is pretty good. I mean, I don't have anything to add to it except for the fact that, like, we also do find out who RAB is. We figure out that Sirius's brother, that's who the person...
Way bigger mystery in the books.
It's not that big of a deal in the movie, but yeah. Kreacher's involved, and this is how Kreacher falls in love with Harry Potter, because he's finishing the job that Regulus gave Kreacher. So it was a lot more intricate in the books.
This is the whole Polyjuice mystery heist. And this is something that I feel like on paper feels like a good idea. Everyone likes a heist infiltration plan, but the whole thing was just like so slapdash that you almost don't believe that these guys could pull it off. They literally just essentially it's a cartoon almost. Like, they bonk people on the heads, take their outfits, polyjuice them.
Yeah,
they stay passed out all day.
It did seem very cartoonish. When the lady's on the floor in the middle of the street in, like, London, come on, who are you kidding? You can't be just dragging passed out women into dungeons or whatever, like garages.
Can't be doing
that. It's insane. And then just another thing is, why flush yourself to work? It's kind of disgusting. It doesn't make
some
any sense.
Shit that's like only makes sense when it's like, what do muggles think wizards do?
Exactly.
Telling you the Minister of Magic is flushing himself down the toilet every fucking day makes no sense.
No sense. You putting his shoes into the toilet? Come on, that's not right. The Ministry of Magic in Fantastic Beasts looks so much better than the Ministry of Magic here. I don't know why. It just comes off very bland.
I will say, Harry Potter and Star Wars always felt the exact opposite to me. Star Wars always felt like the digger you dug, the more you find out and the more you learn. Harry Potter feels like the more you dig, the less sense anything makes. And it's almost like you really got to just step back and enjoy the spells. Once you try to figure out, like, Minister of Magic is warning the Prime Minister of Muggles that there could be an attack happening. How does that work back and forth? Hermione just obliviated your parents. Shouldn't that be? I don't know. Like, there's so many questions you have to ask. And it just feels like the more you ask, the less stuff makes sense in Harry Potter.
But the books, I have to just say this again, you get to sit with these problems so much more, and they really explain and explore why they're doing what they're doing. They actually talk about it and plan it out and go stake out the place to see who they can track, so it doesn't feel so slapstick. It doesn't feel so last second.
Just like basic questions. Like, in 2, they fly the car and everyone's worried about seeing the car.
Yeah.
Well, in the last one, the Voldemort's now attacking Muggles and bridges, and they're looking at it like it's just wind.
Yeah.
So are wizards invisible, or
Are
are
they
Death Eaters
invisible?
wearing visible cloaks, or what's going on there?
But
Muggles have
it's
guns. Can I shoot a wizard? And what happens? How many wizards are there?
that's a
It
great.
feels like there's like 5,000 of them total. There's
In,
5,000 wizards and 20 million Muggles.
yeah.
How does that work? There's 4 schools in Europe. There's 1 school in Africa. There's 1 school. I mean, once you start asking real questions, it falls apart a little bit.
There's a lot of questions about the lore and the actual universe of Harry Potter. I hear you. But back to the actual them stealing the Horcrux. Yeah, I think it was a little silly with Ron having to go take care of the rain in the other like one of the minister's law enforcement office. But then when they actually get down to Umbridge, you're right. It's literally just them stupefying Umbridge and the other dude, and then ripping it off of her neck and running away. What is going? Like the entire ministry, you see the flyers, everyone has it that Harry Potter is the number 1 person, and then just running around the ministry, just everyone watching. It's Harry Potter. This
is literally like us, like me wearing a disguise and going into the White House and being able to sit in front of like Kamala Harris and then just throw a banana at her face, snatch her watch, and then run out.
Yeah,
and I make it to the door.
Yeah, like, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Ron's severely injured. This is the slowdown of the movie.
Let's mention Godric's Hollow. So this is when they're in the woods and stuff, and they can't go back to the Order of the Phoenix headquarters. And Harry. That part is like you're right. It's super slow. We don't need to talk about that. But Godric's Hollow, we do need to talk about. They go back to where
on Harry's idea. Harry has a feeling that he should go there.
This is the one thing that they do without Ron because Ron left already.
Yep, Ron's gone. And this is one of those things where Harry at this point knows Voldemort's connected to him. But Harry's still like, I gotta go to Godric's Hollow. I'm feeling it. Like, there's something good there. Like on instinct alone, Harry is terrible. He's sometimes he's great.
He's got the
terrible track record. I mean, this is a dude that literally spent every book blaming Malfoy. It only panned out literally on the last book.
Book 6, yeah.
This man has been blaming Malfoy. Like that was his instinct. Of course, Godric's Hollow is a trap. Nagini's there.
Yeah, but like my whole thing is, even if Godric Hollow is a trap, why the fuck are you following some crazy ass old creepy ass lady that you meet in the graveyard? I know it's supposed to be the fact that he saw it on the back of the book. Yep. Everybody's out to get you, and you just see this lady, and you're like, "Oh, I know. This is my feeling again. I'm going to follow this lady." It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Even in the book, it's fucking crazy to me. And I just have to mention this again. Hermione, she literally does everything in this movie.
Yep. Doesn't get listened to. Takes care of everything.
Yeah, they wouldn't have made it to past the safe house.
It should have been called Hermione Granger and Friend.
Exactly.
She made the right choice, obviously. When Ron left, he acting like a complete jackass. Made some good points. Yep. But still,
you think I don't know how this feels? Oh, you don't know how it feels. Your parents are dead. You have no family.
They follow the old lady.
How long was Nagini waiting there, first off? Nagini was in the cut in the old woman for what, a month? 2 months? How long? I mean, these are real questions.
These, like, again, what you said, when you scratch the surface, it doesn't make any sense. Because we come to find out that Voldemort is definitely afraid to leave Nagini's side, but over here he just has her posted in this
no
random town.
Not even Wormtail, just like pretending to be a rat. Sword of Gryffindor shows up. This is one of those Harry Potter things that this dude is so lucky. I mean, Ron says that he followed a ball of light to them. Sure, that works. The Sword of Gryffindor is in the bottom of a frozen lake.
How?
No hypothermia involved at all. Ron finds him.
We end up finding out that Snape is the one that gives them the sword. But why put it at the bottom of the fucking lake?
Yeah.
If you're trying to help a brother out, why are you trying to kill him? And you do it beneath the ice? Like you said, as soon as you ask one question, everything just falls the fuck apart. The things that they were telling Ron hurt my feelings, Mumbury. That shit was deep. They were stabbing him.
Yeah, but
Harry told Ron, your mother wants me as a son instead of you?
Here's the thing, though. I felt like it went too far. You know when you go too far that it can't be true?
Yeah.
Like, I felt like if they had toned it down maybe 20%, then Ron would have been hurt, right? But they went so far that Ron was like, "This is unbelievable."
Yeah.
This is
I get
unbelievable. Because if they had been like, "You're the disappointment in the family,"
well,
right,
that makes
cool.
sense. Yeah.
Makes sense. Like I can see that happening.
Harry and Hermione might have a thing. I can see that.
Yeah.
But your mother doesn't want you? Come on.
And he knows his mom's like on his ass every fucking minute. Like, come on. We're at this point now. Every decision they make is objectively terrible. Now they have to go to Luna Lovegood, but I also know for a fact Hermione's the greatest researcher we've seen so far.
Yeah.
There's no public library ever. But anyway, they go to Luna Lovegood's place. He's clearly agitated, like obviously. Clearly.
Yeah.
They ignore it.
Yeah.
And then he's even more agitated after. But this is my favorite part. This is like the part I start. This animation is so beautiful. Could watch that, the Hallows animation, way more than I could watch this movie. I want to know more about
that
what
story,
happened.
The three brothers.
It was my spin-off called The Hallows.
Ooh.
And it's an anthology series where each season they go over an anthology of each item. There's a movie called The Red Violin, but it's about a Stradivarius type violin, right? So a master violin maker makes a violin. It's supposed to like infuse parts of him, like parts of his blood is in it. So it's a red violin.
Oh, shit.
And that's what gives it its color. The movie is about the life of the violin until it gets to Samuel L. Jackson. I would love a series about that. So season 1 would be the Elder Wand. And you follow the Elder Wand
owners
through the ages.
Yes.
All the owners. What happens to them? The good, the bad. The
now tragic. That's a fucking spinoff, Mulberry. Right? Yes.
Right? Season 1. And then season 2, right?
Then you got back the life thing. Yep.
And then season 3 is the cloak. And so you kind of get to see the differences, right? Maybe there's 1 or 2 smart ones. We'd love to see that.
I really like that's a real spinoff, Mulberry. Back to the scene. You're right. That animation does look fantastic. It really is cool. And you do get sucked into it. And them deciding to have Hermione do the narration. In the book, Hermione does it as well. But in the movie, she's fantastic at the exposition, at the narration, at the storytelling. Yep. When the Death Eaters come, they can just disapparate. What was Luna's dad's plan? Him just yelling, "You can't leave." You really think that was going to stop them from leaving?
But he also told them all the information he needs and let him escape.
But from his perspective, all the information is silly. You know, it's not like he's sharing Voldemort's hiding place. You know what I mean? He's just trying to keep them there. Yeah. So if that's what you want to find out, fine. I'll tell you about the Deathly Hallows.
They escape. They get followed. In between him getting captured, I never understand how Harry's always able to like be in the middle of an action scene, have a flashback to what Voldemort's doing, and then still be right there. But he has a flashback. Honestly, all this stuff makes way more sense in the books. In the movie, you're watching and you're like, who is that old man in the cell? But they explain everything in the books. But essentially, that's Grindelwald. He is essentially the original Voldemort. Voldemort finds him, breaks into his prison, and is like, yo, you have the wand, right? I tracked this shit. He's like, nah, dude, Dumbledore took it from me. They change Harry's appearance. Back to the Polyjuice bonking on the head. It feels so childish.
Yeah, so childish.
That it shouldn't work.
At all.
And it almost does, to the point where I'm honestly like, Malfoy, you might have to die. Because who else would be hanging out with Ron and Hermione? Like, it's not like they had other friends. If you see Ron and Hermione with a dude with a white kid with black hair that looks like he's having an allergic reaction, that's Harry Potter.
Obviously.
There's a scar in his forehead. Yeah. I know he's probably like scared to his wit's end, and his family is so funny. He's like, come on, just do it. Come on, come on. That's fucking him. We're the people that found him. It's so hilarious.
His dad's like grabbing him. Yeah. Say it's him. Say it's him. I'm like, come on, bro. Take a breath.
Still makes no sense that they're not like, that's clearly Harry Potter.
The priority is Harry. It's not the sword. But I understand why Bellatrix doesn't want to get caught not doing the thing she said she was going to do, like hide the sword. That does kind of make sense, but the priority is fucking Harry Potter.
Right. And then they escape from the clutches of the bad guys super easily. The Death Eaters are notoriously famous for being able to put a signal in the air and 50 of the motherfuckers come out of nowhere.
Yeah, just tap the fucking
For
wrist.
some now, the fucking Simply Safe ain't working no more. They cannot get that alarm out. For some reason, everyone's quiet. We got to torture people for ages. That sometimes the decision making makes no sense. Because let me tell you something. If I found Harry Potter, I don't care if I have to beep that shit.
Yeah.
Getting that notification
immediately, bro.
Harry Potter is here.
Yeah, I see him at the gate. I'm like, get over here.
I am not giving him to Wormtail to look after. There is not a chance. I will tape his ass to a chair and sit in front of him until Voldemort walks in the room. Yeah. I mean, this is 101, people. All these Death Eaters, they act like they work at Apple. Like Tim Cook is their boss. And it's a chill environment. Yeah, we'll get to the boss when we get to the boss. You know, we're out here trying to get the free meals. This dude is Voldemort.
Yeah,
he's gonna show up and be pissed when he finds out that
one of
you was dying.
Exactly.
Someone in the room is dying when he shows up and Harry's not there.
Can I just ask you this about Wormtail specifically? Like in the beginning of the movie, don't you think he deserves at least a seat at the table?
No, because he's clearly fucking up.
I mean, this fucking like Wormtail. I think in the order of fucking Death Eaters, I think it's Bellatrix, Snape, and then Wormtail that have done the most for Voldemort.
Done the most for Voldemort. But you know what Wormtail is? Have you ever seen an org chart? And then there's always a motherfucker like off to the side. He's not like on the organ. You know what? Like, have you ever seen a corporate chart where it's like the boss?
Oh yeah. I know what you mean. Okay,
and then, who they report to.
Yeah, yes,
right?
Yes.
I feel like the Death Eaters have that, and then off to the side,
they got Wormtail.
We got Wormtail.
Another little thing that I thought was actually pretty good about that scene: Bellatrix actually torturing Hermione. The screaming, it was visceral. I felt that torture. You didn't see much of it. Obviously, you don't want to see any of that stuff.
And this is me not being like an asshole. After seeing that all she did was just the light Umbridge shit, I mean, it still must have hurt. But we've seen Umbridge do that shit to students.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Hermione, step your game up.
Stop it!
No, I'm being serious, though.
So you're saying at this point of the game, if you're getting cut, if
you're a soldier, you a front line, you're going after Voldemort. You're number 2, probably.
100%. She's number 2.
Right? You're gonna crack like that? You're gonna be crying. This is your Dark 30 shit. This is Guantanamo. Umbridge was doing that shit when you were kids.
Yep.
What is going on, Hermione?
But you're right. Dobby comes by, and then they do this face-off, and then Bellatrix throws the knife at Dobby, and it's the end of the movie.
Yeah. And Bellatrix, once again, you cannot find a better employee.
Yeah.
She's the one, if Voldemort shows up and it's like they got away, how could they? Then Voldemort's pissed. He'll be so pissed, but he knows in his heart of hearts, Bellatrix got his.
Yep.
Bellatrix got hers.
Yep.
She saw an opportunity and she was like, shit, I'll kill the elf.
I'll kill the elf. I'll take somebody. Let me.
And I'm a smile. I mean,
yes. Bellatrix is probably my favorite Death Eater, but bar none.
If I had 5 Bellatrixes,
then
the shit would be a rat.
A rat. It would be done. The absolute last scene is Voldemort doing the Elder Wand little lightning thing. When you say your favorite scene was the Deathly Hallows explanation, I think I have to, maybe not. I think just the intro scene with the snake, I know it's very short, but just I love Voldemort.
Set the tone. They do set the tone.
I love that scene. I think that's probably my favorite scene. But yeah, that's the movie. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
This movie's way more forgiving when you watch them back to back. I will say, we've been praising Infinity War all this time, but Infinity War almost has the opposite issue. Endgame is a trash rewatch. I think we can say it now. And it's a great movie. It kind of has the slow parts that this movie has in Endgame because they have to build up for the big bad again.
The big bad fight again.
And all the juice has kind of been sucked out by Infinity War. The movie that did it perfectly is Lord of the Rings because it doesn't have this part 1, part 2. And I think doing a part 1, part 2 in movies, and it's just a tough sell because you can either do it this way where it's building up the whole time through and you're kind of disappointed by the first one. Or you can do it the Infinity War way where there's a cliffhanger and the first one is so good.
The part 2.
Part 2.
Like the first third of the movie. it's like
just
dragon.
Dude,
dragon.
I'm looking at a thin Tony Stark. That's not a good sign. It just feels wrong. I'm watching the B team, kinda. Like I want to see T'Challa, but he's dead. Obviously, Endgame made ungodly money.
Yeah, but the thing is, the only reason that I'm giving you the face when you say Endgame is a hard rewatch, I will rewatch like from the scene where when the three of them, the big three, fight Thanos till the end of the movie.
Oh, that
a million times over, right?
Godly.
Like, exactly, it's godly. So like, I think it makes up for the rest of the movie, kind of, but it's a 2.5 hour movie.
If I had to watch one of them full through, it's Infinity War.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And if I'm had to watch one of these two movies full through, it's part two.
Yeah, I know what you mean. What do you think Across the Spider-Verse Part 2 is going to be? Do you think that, because I felt like Part 1 was action-packed and it was a huge cliffhanger, do you think it's going to be a boring, like, hour and 30 minutes to a, like, hardcore end? Or
those guys make that movie so well. I mean, those movies are at a different level than this movie.
Fantastic.
It's operating at a different level. Artistically, story-wise, but definitely artistically. I don't think these movies are in the same competition. I will say, same cliffhanger. That's a movie I honestly probably need to rewatch more.
You should. My favorite movie of 2023.
I watched it twice or 3 times. I still felt like there's too much stuff going on screen.
Yeah.
I don't know where to look. In some of those action sequences, there's 20 Spider-Mans. I mean, that movie is doing things that Harry Potter, this, no offense.
Only dream of.
Honestly, David Yates, this ain't the same thing. If they keep the quality up, I don't see any reason why that won't be like probably the best regarded animation trilogy. I think it's going to be that and Toy Story, probably the best 1, 2, 3.
But ladies and gentlemen, that is your Deathly Hallows Part 1. It is a millennial classic. It is part of the Millennials True series. Catch us for our last one when we drop it, Part 2. And until then, catch you on the flip.
Deuces.